So then technically as a Christian, if no food is unclean, does that mean that you can eat human meat?
Han Meditations.
Hey guys, as you can see, I have all these journals. The link will be in the description. Hello guys, I am Han. This is Kelly. We are Han Meditations and we're back with another video. Now, I did a video because if people are aware, I've recovered and got through stage 5 kidney disease and absolutely recovered. And, I was on dialysis for 2 years, not on it anymore. During that whole process, one time I went and my dad made this pork dish. I ate it. And then literally I went back to the hospital right after eating that. I was like, my blood pressure was skyrocketed. And to me, I was only there for like 2 days. I was in the hospital for like a night or two because I had to lower my blood pressure. But after that, I really took that as a sign of, well, guess what? God doesn't want me to eat pork anymore. So I have not eaten pork since that day. That was years ago. Yeah. And I have not eaten pork since 2 years ago that day. So probably going on 3 years now. So, right. People think that pork is a good thing. You can do it. A lot of Christians eat pork. I believe that Christians can't and shouldn't eat pork. Mm. So let's see what ChatGPT has to say unbiased. Hello, ChatGPT. So I have a question in your unbiased opinion. I want you to read the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah. And we all know that in the Quran, you're not allowed to eat pork. Are you allowed to eat pork as a Christian according to the Bible and as a Jew according to the Torah?
In your question about the consumption of pork in Christianity and Judaism, the answers vary significantly based on religious texts and interpretations. 1. Judaism Torah. In the Torah, specifically in Leviticus 11:7 and Deuteronomy 14:8, the consumption of pork is explicitly prohibited. The passages outline dietary laws, stating that Jews should not eat animals that do not chew the cud and have cloven hooves, which includes pigs. Thus, observant Jews follow this dietary restriction and do not eat pork. Christianity Bible. In Christianity, the view on eating pork varies among denominations. The New Testament contains passages that suggest a change in dietary laws. For example, in Acts 10:9-16, Peter has a vision where he is told not to call anything impure that God has made clean. This is often interpreted as indicating that dietary restrictions from the Old Testament, including the prohibition against pork, no longer apply to Christians. Additionally, in Mark 7:18-19, Jesus declares all foods clean, suggesting that the dietary laws are not binding for Christians. As a result, most Christians feel free to eat pork, while some denominations that adhere more closely to Old Testament laws may still avoid it. Summary. In summary, observant Jews are prohibited from eating pork according to the Torah, while Christians generally believe they are allowed to eat pork, as the New Testament suggests that dietary laws have changed. However, interpretations can vary among different Christian denominations. If you're interested in exploring more about these dietary laws, consider checking out resources such as the Chabad website for Jewish laws or Christian theology sites that discuss New Testament teachings.
So in the Bible, is it only in the Old Testament that declares eating pork is harmful?
Yes, the prohibition against eating pork is primarily found in the Old Testament, specifically in the Torah. The relevant passages include Leviticus 11:7 and Deuteronomy 14:8, which clearly state that pigs are considered unclean animals and should not be eaten by the Israelites. In the New Testament, the dietary laws from the Old Testament are addressed, but there is no specific mention that eating pork is harmful. Instead, passages like Acts 10:9-16 and Mark 7:18-19 suggest that these laws do not apply to Christians, indicating a shift in dietary practices. For more detailed explanations, you might find these resources helpful. Shabbat, Kosher Laws. Please open your app to see this link.
So in the Bible, in the New Testament, who wrote and said that it is okay to eat pork, essentially?
In the New Testament, the teachings about dietary laws, including the consumption of pork, primarily come from two key figures, Jesus and the Apostle Peter. 1. Jesus. In Mark 7:18-19, Jesus speaks about the purity of foods, declaring that it is not what goes into a person's body that defiles them, but what comes out. This is often interpreted to mean that all foods, including pork, are clean. The passage suggests a significant shift away from Old Testament dietary restrictions. 2. In Acts 10, verse 9-16, Peter has a vision in which he sees a sheet filled with unclean animals, including pigs, and is instructed by God to kill and eat. This vision is interpreted as God declaring all foods clean and emphasizing that the dietary laws of the Old Testament no longer bind Christians. These passages together signify a move towards a more inclusive understanding of dietary practices in the early Christian community. For further reading, you can check out these sources. Mark 7:18-19 commentary. Please open your app to see this link. Acts 10:9-16 commentary. Please open your app to see this link. These provide insights into the context and implications of these teachings.
So then technically as a Christian, if no food is unclean, does that mean that you can eat human meat?
While the New Testament emphasizes that all foods are clean and that the dietary laws of the Old Testament do not apply to Christians, this does not mean that anything, including human meat, is acceptable to eat. Ethical and moral considerations. Christian teachings emphasize moral and ethical guidelines, including the sanctity of human life. Consuming human meat or cannibalism is widely regarded as morally wrong and is condemned in Christian ethics. The Bible teaches respect for human dignity and life, which would inherently oppose such an act. Context of clean foods. When Jesus discusses clean and unclean foods in passages like Mark 7, the focus is primarily on the distinction between ceremonial cleanliness and moral actions. The principle of loving one's neighbor and treating others with respect is a core teaching in Christianity. Conclusion.
So what my point in asking that is, number one, in the Old Testament, it says that pork is unclean. Sorry, guys. Hold on a second. This is, there it is. My thing just got out of focus. But it said that pork is unclean for Christians. And it said that Jesus said it's not what goes in, but what comes out. This does not mean that pork is good for you to eat. Because I'm pretty sure if Jesus was here today, he'd be seeing McDonald's and all these other places, fast food restaurants and all these different places. I'm sure he doesn't want you to eat doggy meat.
Don't eat the cats and dogs.
You know what I mean? They're eating the cats and the dogs. They're eating the dogs. So I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want you eating doggy meat.
Don't eat your pet, people.
So but I think the overall point of Jesus was it's more important of how you act basically than what goes in. But that doesn't mean you can just eat anything and do anything. Yeah.
So as far as that passage, as it kind of mentioned in the end, like we have to realize where he was and what was going on historically. And it was, the Roman Empire, but of course, religiously, it was very, for lack of better words, like old school, Jewish teaching. So I'm not sure as far as like diet stuff, but I know there's a lot of rituals and different things that you have to do as part of the religion. So personally, I think that his teaching with that was basically saying like, things were so by the book back then, right? And so I think what he was saying is that it doesn't have to be like, it's not so much this exact thing. It's what you put out. It's the energy that you put out essentially as a human to another human is going to be way more important. And not only that, but even today, like you shouldn't eat bad, but if you do eat bad, if you do have the right internal mindset connection going on, it can outweigh all of that. It technically
for
can.
Sure. Yeah, I think so. I think if you're one with God and you're connected with God, then you can do whatever you want essentially.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you should be eating healthy and low vibrational foods all the time. That's not what that means.
Exactly.
So, that doesn't mean that Christians can just go out and start eating pork. No, I think you still should not eat a pork as a Christian because it's in the Old Testament, which is a part of Christianity.
It's true.
So, there it is, guys. So thank you guys for watching the video. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and being a part of this channel, guys. And make sure to share the video to spread the word. We don't care if you share. Just tag us in the video at Han Meditations on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And thank you guys for being here. And we'll see you
in the next video.